So I want to talk to you about what I found in my summary of the review of literature. A lot of the articles that I found were from the early 2000s. There's been kind of a little bit of a resurgence of interest in this topic, so there are a few of the more recent, but some of them are a little older. A lot of what's been done has been done outside of the United States, which creates a little bit of a problem in that disability laws vary between countries, so some of them are relevant and some of them are not as much. But in all the studies that I did, and I looked at university students with disabilities as a whole and university faculty perceptions of those students as a whole, and then I focused down on nursing, the students and the faculty, and then also looked at clinical studies. The primary thing, there's two primary themes that emerge through all of those, is that students have difficulty disclosing their disabilities because they fear being marginalized, or that feeling of otherness that we can create in them, even by trying to be overly helpful and over accommodating. And then the innate need in all students, but especially students with disabilities, for a positive response and support from the faculty. And that was one of the hugest determinants in student success, was that they felt supported and that the faculty viewed them positively. So like I said, there's been very little done on the clinical setting, but what has been done has, like I said, has been done outside of the U.S. And so that's why this is an important focus for me, because the clinical setting is so important in producing strong, competent nurses. So the purpose of the study and the research question, the purpose of the study is to assess clinical faculty perspectives about nursing students with disabilities. And the research question is, what results emerged from comparing the exploratory qualitative data about clinical nursing faculty perceptions of students with disabilities with the outcome quantitative data measured on the modified accommodation of university students with disabilities instrument. And this is an instrument developed by Woolman and McCreek and used in their study in 2004 that I have gotten permission to use and to modify to focus on the clinical portion of the nursing portion of my study, where theirs is university students as a whole. I will change some of the questions to focus on nursing and be specific to the clinical setting. All right. So the significance of the study, as I've already pointed out, this is an understudied topic, and what has been done in other countries. There's been kind of a dearth, I guess, in the studies, kind of for a period from about 2004 until about 2013. There wasn't a lot done, and so they're just kind of starting to pick up again and study some things. The size and prevalence of this population as a whole, and how many of these students are now entering in with the 80 AAA of 2008, it just exploded the number of students with disabilities who are entering universities. And so, we're going to see more and more students with disabilities, so we need to have an understanding of how we can accommodate those students. And then the power of the faculty on student success, like I found that was one of the major themes, is how much power faculty holds, and the importance of the clinical aspect of nursing education. So, we all know about accommodating as far as extended test time or a quiet environment, but when we look at the clinical aspect of accommodating and being an advocate for the student in our clinical facilities and helping them to make those adjustments there and accommodations, that's something that has really not been studied very much. So the study design and method, and this is still kind of in its rudimentary stages. I'm just starting to work on really the design and what I want to do. But I decided to use a transformative design because it is change-oriented and it's focused on advancing social justice for those marginalized peoples. And, as I've stated, people with disabilities are the largest minority group in the world. So the purpose of using this design is just to kind of challenge our current thinking on this topic and then work towards solutions. And that's my end goal, is that we can come up with some solutions to help these students be successful. So I wanted to do a mixed methods design that starts off with the quantitative that will be administered through SurveyMonkey, and it will be the modified AUSDI. Participants in the quantitative portion will have the option to give me their contact information to do follow-up, semi-structured interviews via video conferencing. And that will just delve deeper into, the more qualitative aspects of this study, and what are those people's perceptions, what are those faculty's perceptions, have they been with students with disabilities before, and what was that like, what kind of experience have they had with students with disabilities, and with the clinical facilities and how they manage those accommodations and those kind of things. So just to kind of delve in a little deeper and get some more of that, the meatier, deeper understanding of what their experiences were with students with disabilities. So to summarize, my hope in this project is really to get a deeper understanding of clinical faculty perceptions of students with disabilities. And one of the things I don't think I've mentioned is that, primarily in a lot of the schools of nursing that I've been associated with, we use adjuncts for clinical faculty. And they do not get, I would say, full-time faculty's training is subpar when it comes to dealing with students with disabilities. But a lot of times the adjunct faculty don't even get what full-time faculty get. So I feel like there may be a bigger issue with our clinical faculty, because we do use so many adjuncts that may not really understand what it means to accommodate these students and how we should address that and how we address disabilities in education. So I think to just understand where they are will allow us to move forward in helping this population. It is to help to open the door to education and training regarding accommodations for these students. So if we see that there's a really big difference between what clinical faculty know and full-time lecturing faculty know, then maybe we can develop some education and training programs to use with those faculty to just help them be ready when they have a student with a disability. It's also to pave the way for further studies involving clinical facilities and students with disabilities. So how do clinical facilities feel about having these students in, and how do they accommodate, and how do they ensure patient safety when we have students with disabilities coming into their facilities. And then also just to affect change and promote inclusion of nurses and nursing students with disabilities. And I think knowledge is so powerful, and just being able to talk about nurses and nursing students with disabilities, and maybe cause you to think a little about this population and bring it home and relate, what if this was my son or daughter, can help to really open the door and help us to do better at accommodating these students. So here are my references. There are 2 pages of them. And I thank you very much for your time and letting me speak to you today. Are there any questions that I can answer for you now?